Hey guys, how's it going? It's Carl here from North Coast Constrictors. I hope the volume's okay. The other day I did a video and I started off by saying I've been getting complaints about the first couple of seconds of my videos aren't really picking up any volume, and then all of a sudden it started working again. So today I want to do, I don't know, hopefully a short video. What to do if your snake's not eating. Okay. So I've had this problem a couple of times with a few snakes over the last year, and I've tried a number of different type of things to get them eating again. Now, there's different ways. I try and classify it as feeding problems. Okay, now you get some snakes that just don't want to eat, and then you get some snakes that will take and constrict and reject not regurgitate, but reject the rat or the mouse or whatever it is. So you'll offer it a rodent, it'll strike at it, it'll grab it, it'll coil it, and then the next minute you go back and you open up the tub and you have a look and it hasn't eaten its meal, but it struck at it and it coiled it and it looked like it was going to eat. So that's one problem you have. Another problem that you have is offering a rodent and just outright refuses to even take. Okay, so that is probably one of the most common problems. And then getting a snake back on food that used to be a ravenous eater. Okay, so you got to look at a couple of different things to find out, number one, why the snake is not eating. Now there's obviously hundreds or if not thousands of YouTube videos out there. But we'll start by a process of elimination. All these videos, most of them will explain exactly what I'm going to explain now. Obviously start off by checking your husbandry. Okay, first of all, make sure the snake's not sick. Okay, I mean, if your snake's not eating, your number one priority is to make sure that the snake is actually well and, you know, healthy. Because a snake, if it's sick, if it's got an RI, if it's got an internal intestinal problem, some kind of bacterial infection or whatever, that could be going off food. However, do these other things first. Okay, obviously you're going to have to take it to a vet to see if there's, if you can't see an RI you can see, because there'll be bubbles coming out the nose or the mouth when it breathes or whatever. You'll see a difference in the snake if it's sick, with the way that it behaves. If it's very, very lethargic, if it just doesn't want to move. I mean, if when you've had your snakes a while and you get to know them and you pick up a difference in their behavior, then, but it'll take, if you kind of don't know what you're doing or you can't pinpoint a problem after you've changed these things that I'm going to touch on now, then ultimately you have to take your snake to the vet and they will perform tests on the snake and tell you what's wrong with it. So, number one, your snake is not eating. Okay, let's say you've bought a brand new snake, you've so excited now, you've brought it back, and this is obviously not for the experienced guys because you guys already know this, okay? But let's just say that you are a new snake keeper. Please, what I'm about to tell you now, I haven't followed these rules 100% and not all of them have worked, so I'm just kind of giving you a guideline. All right, so the rule of thumb is you buy a new snake, you brought it back home and you put it into its enclosure. Okay, everybody wants their snake to eat. It's just one of those things, because a snake that eats is a healthy snake. You know you got a good snake. Breeders, especially if you're a hobbyist breeder like me or a full-time breeder where that's your sole source of income, it's not mine. In fact, I don't make any money from my breeding yet. I'm still subsidizing my breeding projects with my normal day-to-day job. I've been doing this a year. My return on my investment and breeding project, for me, I've got a long-term goal. It's 2 years away from when I started a year ago. So I'll only start making a return on my investment at the end of 2023 and probably start making a profit in 2024 and 2025. And you ask why that long? Well, because I bought really, really good snakes and really high-end genetics. I did buy some incorrect snakes in the beginning when I first got into it, but after about 8 or 9 months, I started realizing where I wanted to go, what direction I wanted to go, and I started selling some snakes and reinvesting in really, really high-end double recessives and triple recessives, and hets, 100% hets. In the recessives, I'm focusing on recessives. And I got that information a little late because I was new and I was still learning the ropes. Okay, so if I'd bought less snakes, yes, I could make my money back a little bit quicker, because it wouldn't be that much to pay myself back. But you know, when I do things in life, I do things pretty large, and if I'm going to go in for something, I'm going to do it properly. So I invested a lot of money. Okay, and it's going to take me time and patience and, you know, whatever. So during this process of buying snakes, I have bought some snakes, and very expensive ones as well, which didn't eat. I've also had snakes that were eating ravenously and then went off food for no apparent reason. And I hadn't changed anything in the tubs, I hadn't changed the substrates, I hadn't changed anything. The temperatures were still the same. It just to go off food, it wasn't breeding season or anything like that. Like you got to tick all those things off. But right, Owiga males will, and females will usually start smashing the food as kind of maybe about a week or maybe 2 weeks after they've laid their eggs, because they haven't been eaten for anywhere between 4 and maybe 8 months during the breeding season. Some females will struggle to go back on food. Some females will just go back onto food straight away. Then you'll also get a perfectly healthy snake. You'll bring it home. It may be a hatchling, it may be a sub-adult, and you bring it back home and you put it into its new enclosure. The rule of thumb is don't offer that snake a meal for maybe the first 5 days. Okay, first question, ask your supplier, the breeder that you purchased the snake from, what was the when was the last time the snake ate? What have you been feeding it? Okay, what enclosure did you keep the snake in? Ask those 3 questions, okay, and then mimic that, even if it's not the same as what your current setup is, just until the snake has taken maybe 2 or 3 meals. So simulate the environment that the snake came from. Like if I keep most of my snakes, 90% of them, they're on wood chip, and they are in different size tubs depending on the size of the snake. They're in a racking system. I don't keep any of my ball pythons in tanks or enclosures. They're all in racking systems. Some of the tubs are black, some of the tubs are clear, as you can see. You know, I've got all different types. I've got some snakes that won't eat in clear tubs. They need to be completely confined, and that they eat well in the black tubs. So when I bring a new snake home, I have already asked the breeder, what was it eating? How often were you feeding it? What was the size prey? What type of prey? And what was the enclosure like? And if I can match that, then that's what I'll do. And I'll put that new snake into that enclosure, and then I'll ask him when was the last time he fed it. If it was a week previous to taking collection of the snake, I'll probably wait about 3 days and, you know, put it in, close the tub, leave it alone, just do my temperature checks in the morning and do my temperature checks in the evening to make sure that my hot spots are correct. And then probably on the 3rd night, maybe the 4th night, I'll offer it the same prey item as what the previous the breeder had fed it. If it doesn't take, then what I will do is I will wait 7 days. Okay. If it still doesn't take after that, I'll wait another 7 days and I'll offer it again. I will not offer food to that snake until after 8:30 p.m. at night. I will pretty much turn off all the lights in the snake room, and I'll keep one light on just so that I can see what I'm doing in the corner. I've got my lights on now, my tanks which you can't see. I've got boa tanks over there. I've got a retic tank down there. I've got tanks over there with boas and retics in. Those are all, that's what's lighting up this room at the moment, and then there's obviously a light behind the camera. All those go off and I make the room as dark as possible. Snakes wake up at night. Ball pythons especially, they are nocturnal. When they start coming to the front of the tub, that's when they're looking for food. When they are going to the cool end of the tub, that's what they're doing, because prey will not be in the hot section. When they're looking for prey, they're looking for it in the cool section. So when you see your snake at the front of the tub, I can't see mine in the black tubs, but I've got these air vents over here. And often I walk into the snake room and I come in with my rats and I let them defrost in here. You can see their little noses up here. I can see them looking at me. You can see them going up and down the front of the tank because they're smelling. Their nostrils are right here and they can smell the rats, and you know that that snake is ready to eat. Okay, so that's what you do, number one, and try and offer. If it still doesn't eat, hang tight for about 2 weeks. Okay, make sure your temperatures are right. Make sure your hotspot is sitting at around about 31.5, 32.5 degrees Celsius. Okay, that's 88 to 90 degrees Fahrenheit, somewhere around there. I'm going to go into a worst case scenario extreme feeding method at the end of this video. It is literally, and I'm telling you now, the very last thing that you do if you are now panicking about feeding a snake. I'm going to go through all the steps that you follow first. When I do talk about it, I'm not saying advocate. I'm not advocating, and I'm not saying this is what you must do. Okay, but I'll get to that. All right. Second thing you do after that, if that hasn't worked and it's still not taking, change the enclosure completely. Take the snake out, wipe it down or whatever. If it was on paper, put cocoa husk inside there, or put wood chip inside there. Change it up. Put another bowl inside there. Take it from a transparent. If it was in a transparent tub, put it in a tub that's blacked out. But if it's a small snake and it's like a hatchling or whatever, obviously these big tubs are too big. Put a harden. Put something inside there so that the snake can feel safe. Ball pythons like to feel secure. Their natural habitat are termite mounds in Africa. Dark, tight, confined spaces. That's where they go, and they place themselves in an ambush position, and they wait for a rodent to come in and eat the termites, and boom, they hit the rodents. They are comfortable in very tight, dark spaces. That's where they go to feed. So that's what they're comfortable with. So if you've got a hatchling in a big enclosure with no hards, that snake is going to feel intimidated. It is going to feel scared. It is not going to want to eat. So put a hard in, make it feel secure, and offer a different, and even go down a prey size. So for example, if it was on a wiener rat, for example, well, no, let's go even smaller than that. Let's say it was on a hopper mouse, a jumper, a hopper, whatever you want to call it, okay? Drop it down to a fuzzy, something like that, okay? Make the prey size smaller. I've gone so far as to, obviously make sure it's hot. I've got my temp gun, where I go, I've got my temp gun. I'll defrost the rat, and then I will put it in hot water and heat it up to between 38 and 40 degrees Celsius. And I'll check it, and then I'll just actually sometimes drop feed. What I'll do is I'll open the tub, I will put the rodent inside the tub, right by where the hard is, so that the snake can see it by the hard, and I'll close the tub, I'll walk out and I'll close the door and I'll leave it there overnight. I'll try that. And I'll come back in, and sometimes in the morning the snake is eaten. Sometimes it hasn't. I take the rodent out, have to throw it away because you obviously can't do anything with that rodent, okay? 9 times out of 10 you're going to get your snake to eat if you change up the environment, especially if you've taken it from a bigger enclosure and you put it in a small enclosure, or you've given it a hard or something like that. If your temperatures were too low, you must understand that if it's too cool, the snake is not going to eat. If it's too hot, snakes will eat when it's hotter. If it's too hot, it's not going to eat, okay? Your rule of thumb, point of reference temperature on a hot spot for a ball python is 32.2 degrees Celsius. If you want to go down to the 0.2 whatever, then 32.2 degrees Celsius, okay? So if you are lower than 31.5 degrees, you might start having a problem. However, I've got snakes that will eat at 30. I've got snakes that will eat if there's no heat. I've got snakes that I have to literally dress up in a tuxedo and come in with a silver tray and a bloody, what do you call it? Like, you know, like in a 5-star restaurant, and make sure everything in the ambiance is perfectly set, and then open the tub nice and gently and delicately offer this snake his meal. And if I'm lucky enough, the snake will take it. I have got some of those very, very finicky eaters, and it does my head in. I've got other snakes where literally I pull open the tub and I offer, and the snake is out the tub and has grabbed that rat and has wrapped around, sometimes to the point where I can't even get my tongs off. I have to like pull it off. So it just depends on the snake. Okay, let's say it's a male that has gone through a breeding season, and males can lose a lot of weight if they do a lot of work. Just give it time. Put a hard in, change everything out, move them into, obviously keep your males sometimes a bit cooler than the females, raise the temperature up a 0.5 degree or 1 degree Celsius, and change it. If he's been on rats, change him to a fully grown mouse. Sometimes, if you're battling with that, chuck in a multi, an African soft fur. I know that they're much more readily available here in South Africa. In fact, they're like crazy ridiculous available in South Africa. African soft furs to a ball python is what steak is to a man, unless you're a vegan. No offense to vegans, okay? No, it's offense to vegetarians. An African soft fur will literally make any snake, any ball python eat. However, I have got some snakes in my collection that absolutely point blank refuse to eat an African soft fur or even a mouse. They will only eat rats. I do not know why. I brought home 1 or 2 juveniles the other day, and I was offering them hoppers, like, you know, hopper mice, and these things wouldn't eat. And I was like, oh. And then I just thought, you know what? I was feeding some of my other snakes rat pups, and I just thought, oh, you know, I'm just going to try a rat pup. It was a little too big for the snake anyway, and I just said, I'm not even going to worry. And I pulled open the drawer and I chucked it in and I closed it. Boom! Done! Charred. It smashed the rat pup. And I was like, okay, so it came from a different environment, from a different breeder in a completely different setup, eating a certain prey, and it came into a completely different setup now. I threw a different prey item in there, and boom, the thing smashed food straight away. I texted the breeder. I was like, you won't believe it, but this, and you know, the snake ate. Then I brought snakes home, where on the very, very first day, I know I just said, you know, in the beginning of the video, wait 3 to 5 days, even 7 days, depending on when it was last fed before you offered a meal. I've brought home new snakes, hatchlings, put them in the tub, gone about my business. 10 minutes later, I've offered it food and they've smashed. On the first day, 10 minutes in a new tub. Then I've had snakes that have not eaten, and this is where I get to the extreme part here, okay? Where I've spent thousands on one particular snake. Literally thousands on that snake, okay? And it ate perfectly with the breeder, and it never ate with me. Okay, and the snake that I'm talking about is a black pastel pied. I'm actually going to pull the snake out and show you, so that you know that she's perfectly okay. All right. Now bear in mind that this girl here, she's a low white pied, but she's a black pastel pied, which makes her very, well, middle of the range valuable. She's not like a enchy, orange, dream, exantic, leopard, you know, hundreds of thousands snake, but she's a black pastel pied, and she is a valuable snake. Now she should probably be twice the size she is now for her age. She is, oh, I don't know where, I put her in a different enclosure. So this is one of the things that I did. I took her from a 7-liter enclosure and I put her in a 4.5-liter hatchling rack. This girl wouldn't eat. I changed the substrate. I put it from paper to cocoa husk to wood chip. I put her hard. I did everything. I offered her every single prey under the sun. And Eventually, I was starting to get worried about her because I could start to see the spine and faint markings of the ribs. And I started thinking to myself, something has traumatized this snake before I got her. Now, I don't know if she had stopped feeding after I bought her from the breeder. I don't know if something happened at that facility that put her off food. And I'm not going to ask because if I do, it's maybe insulting the oak. It's like I'm questioning or accusing him of selling me a snake that he had a problem with feeding. I don't think that was the case, but I think maybe something happened with her that, because it doesn't matter what I put in there or what I did to her enclosure, nothing worked. So she may have been offered live and it bit her. She may have got a fright. She may have had a rodent that was too big put in with her and she got scared, and maybe that happened 2 or 3 times. And when that happens, a snake can go off food, okay, and they'll never go back on food, okay. So what I did is I assist fed her, and that assist feed turned into a force feed. Now, I'm not going to demonstrate it on the camera because I'm not going to stress the snake out, but I thought to myself, I'm either going to lose this snake through starvation, okay, and watch her die slowly, even if it takes a year, or I'm going to get a meal into her. And I assist fed her a fuzzy rat. I defrosted it, heated it up, and then I can't do it now, obviously I'm not going to make a video on that, but if you go and watch one of Brian Barczyk's videos on assist feeding snakes, I did it exactly that way. I held her in a way and I basically forced the rodent down into her throat and then down through. You've got to do it very, very carefully. Then I literally held her in an upright vertical position like this, okay, and I massaged her tummy just with my thumb so that she didn't regurgitate. I literally stood for 15 minutes in the snake room rubbing her tummy until I got the rodent down to approximately this area. All right, and that was the first meal she had taken in 6 months, and I don't know how long she hadn't eaten before that. And I put her back in her enclosure, and I tell you, I was absolutely petrified because it's quite a hectic, stressful thing to do to a snake. Now that alone could put the snake off food, but it was either that, because I promise you, when I tell you that I had exhausted every single avenue before I tried that, I'm not lying, okay. And I waited a week and I offered her a meal and she hit immediately. What that feed did, that assist feed did, was trigger her into a feeding. Her body now had food in it and she went into shed. Sorry, I didn't. I offered her 7 days later and she refused. And the reason why, she actually was going into the blue. So let me just take back what I said there. So what it did is she grew a little bit and she went into shed and she shed out her old skin. Then I offered her 2 days after she shed and she refused the meal. And I waited another 5 days and then I offered her another meal. And ever since then, she's been back on food. Okay? I do not recommend assist feeding or force feeding your snake unless you have got a professional snake breeder that has done it, or if you yourself know exactly what you're doing and you've done everything else, and it's literally you either get a meal into the snake or the snake's gonna die. That is the point that I reached with this girl, and it worked for me, and I'm thankful that I've never had to assist feed again. All right, and she was planned for next year, but she's not going to go next year because she's not going to be big enough. So she's going to go into the 2024 breeding project, and that's her there. All right, so and she's perfectly healthy, and she's taken about 4 meals now since, and I don't have to even stress about it. So guys, if you have any questions about this video, I need to try and wrap it up before it hits too long. Feeding is a massive thing with ball pythons. They are notoriously known for either smashing food and then for no reason just going off it. I walked in with a red shirt today. I'm not eating. That snake's not eating. It can be the most ridiculous thing, you know, like just for no reason. You cannot put your finger on it. You don't know why it's gone off food. It's just gone off food. It can be very stressful, especially for a new ball python breeder or a new hobbyist breeder or a new pet owner. I promise you, you can get your snake to eat again. You will. Unless there's something medically wrong with your snake, in which case you have to take it to the vet and let them tell you. The vet will have to say to you, listen, this is what's wrong with the snake. You're never going to get it to eat. Or this is what you can do to get it to eat. I'm not a vet. I'm not going to be able to give you that information. So if you've exhausted all avenues and you've tried everything, it's like what I've said, go back to the video and watch from the beginning again. Try all those little things first, all the different prey sizes, all the different little tricks with the hards and the substrate and all of that. Do not offer your snake food repeatedly. The next day, 2 days later, or even 3 days later. If your snake refuses a meal, wait at least 7 days. Do not offer it before it. You've got a 99% chance of that snake not eating again. Okay? Wait at least 7 days. And don't play with it. Don't handle it. Don't take it out, especially for the guys that are keeping them as pets, or you're a hobbyist and you've got a very small collection and you just want to touch your snakes and hold them the whole time. I know it's lovely. We all want to hold our snakes. I love holding my babies. I want to pull them out the tank all the time, pull them out the tubs. I want to hold them, but I do not touch my snakes the day before and the day of feeding. I do not handle. I only open the tubs to change water, but I will not pick that snake up and I will not hold it. I will not handle it. And I will then feed it the following day, and I will not touch that snake for at least 24 to 48 hours afterwards. So on the day of feeding, absolutely, definitely do not touch that snake and leave that drawer closed as far as possible. Only open it to offer the rodent and close it, and try and keep the room as dark as possible. And please, guys, feed as late as possible, as late as you can. Feeding in the middle of the day, feeding in the morning, you're going to have very little success. Okay, so guys, by the way, her name is Jasmine. Okay. So from Jasmine, my healthy, beautiful sub-adult, even though she looks like a kind of a yearling, she's a sub-adult. It's from us on a Sunday evening at North Coast Constrictors. Just a little help you video on feeding, because I know it can be a pain in the ass for most of us, but I promise you there are solutions to it. Good luck. If you're having any issues with feeding snakes, please drop a comment below. If you are different snakes, different feeding problems, you know, I pretty much only know about ball pythons, retics and boas. I can't really help with colubrids and venomous snakes and stuff like that. I don't have the knowledge on that. So and also, guys, you know, hey, like and subscribe. If you're watching my channel for the first time, like and subscribe, join the journey with us at North Coast Constrictors. We've got lots of great stuff happening over the next 2 years. Watch some of my previous videos and you'll see what we've got in store. Anyway, guys, I wish you all a happy, safe week ahead. And yeah, cool. See you on the next video.